Hello my lovely jubblies, I'm fantasims and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be doing something a little differently because I thought it would be fun to show you the builds I'm working on at the moment. Because on Twitter I post regular updates with images of these builds, but here on YouTube you guys have no clue what I have cooking. I mean, when I get to 1,000 subscribers I can post updates for those of you who have clicked on the notification bell. But until then, here's my unfinished projects for you to see. The problem is I have so many of them because I'm always getting new ideas before I finish a build, so now I don't know which one to finish and I need your help. So comment below your vote on which build or builds you like the most and that you'd like to see me finish first. This one is fun. It's one of the first ones I built and it is Disney World. I wanted to create a theme park. I broke up the map like it is in Disney World and Disneyland, so we have Tomorrowland over here. Ignore this building, that's going to be deleted. Then over here we've got Ariel's Grotto, so I need to finish putting rocks on it, and it's got like a little tunnel for the train to go through. And then we've got the It's a Small World ride. That ride is like torture. And then over here we have Frontierland, so we've got this Western style building, but this was before I had Get Famous, and Get Famous has a ton of really cool Western stuff, so I'll probably use that. And then this is, I can't remember, but I enjoy that ride. It's the one that has the goat. You go through the cave tunnel and then you come down, and I was using these kids' high chairs as the base for the roller coaster tracks, but I'm going to come up with something better with the tool mod. And then over here we have the Haunted Mansion. In the Haunted Mansion you ride in these curved pods, and so this is the beginning of the ride and then you go down. I took elements from the actual ride, and then there's this one part where they have like these holographic type ghosts dancing with each other in the ballroom, and then you go around and then you go down, and depending on the season they have like this Nightmare Before Christmas thing, so I created the shape of the Nightmare Before Christmas with the pumpkins. I need to really fix up this area, but then they have like those ghosts in the graveyard singing. And then for the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, it starts out here, and I use these, but there's other boats that I can use now, and you go down that initial first slope, and then there's this like cave area where there's going to be a ton of treasure and pirates and gold, and then you go down this other area, and in the ride there's this battleship scene, so, and they're firing cannons at each other, so that's going to be over here. And then your boat goes through the tunnel, goes through this tunnel, and then I need to finish the end of the ride. So there's still a lot of work to be done on this one, but it is a lot of fun. Alright, now this is a fun and quirky build that I started. So a year ago I had created this whale. I mean, I don't know why I created it, I have no memory of it, but I was thinking of what I could do with this, and I came across an image of a steampunk whale with a city on its back, and I thought that was a really cool idea, so I'm trying to do that myself. So it kind of has a feel of this really funky submarine, and with this mix of, because steampunk is a mix of like quasi-Victorian style, drawing from that 1800 style of technology, so you can see that it's got this Victorian style to it mixed with a lot of metal and old-fashioned type of technology. So you can live inside this whale, and then also down here I have different levels of water, and I'm going to create these livable houses and towers, almost like it's this underwater steampunk city. So it might be hard to envision what I'm thinking, but this one I've already done a huge part of the body of the whale. It just needs some finishing elements to it. So here's another fun option. This is my urban Decay city. I think I started building this last year, and I wanted this really run-down urban city, and so it's kind of modeled after lots of different types of cities, but I lived in Chicago for a few months when I was younger for college, and so I wanted to recreate the sort of elevated train that runs around Chicago. And none of these buildings, I haven't decorated anything inside the buildings, I've just been kind of doing the exterior. We've got this graffiti and trash everywhere. On the street level, I wanted it to just look like a rundown old town with lots of mismatched type of shops and things like, here's on this corner there's like an electrical company, and then in this back lot we've got this entrance ramp up onto the train, and then also we have this old canning factory, so I gave it that more 1800s industrial type of style, but it has been converted into an underground club. So I'm going to decorate the underneath as like a makeshift nightclub. So this one is also an option. This is the first build I started when I downloaded the Journey to Batu game pack, and I decided to call it Fortress of the Goblin King. Like, it's a futuristic Goblin King. I wanted it to have that fantasy feel mixed with the sci-fi feel. I wanted to create this fortress up here that the Goblin King lives inside of, and then these floors will be like the main hall area. It's got this really cool balcony. It's like this floating city. I've got to finish the underneath, give it some shape. And then under here on the ground, I thought it would be cool to have like a goblin town where all the peasant goblins live, and there's like this special entrance through the mountains, through the cave, that you can go through into like this dirty, grungy goblin market. And I think I'm going to carry the water around the front underneath. And that's basically it so far. Right now it's just a floating shell. Here's my University of Pulchramare. I actually started making this back when Discover University first came out. It's like that very historic British traditional look to it, and I've already done quite a bit on this, but there's a lot of classrooms that still need to be done. So over here we have this very traditional college bookstore, and then through here is a very traditional library. So I wanted to create those like supersized overhanging type library cabinet. We've got like little study areas, and then over here we have, at the entrance, we have the student cafe, and then over here we have kind of like a notice board area for students, and over here is going to be the school store, and then over here is going to be the trophy cabinets for the different sports and academics teams. Through here is the headmaster's office. Over on this side of the school is the cafeteria. This is where they can sit to have their food. We have like media arts section over here. It's a green screen area where you can practice filmmaking. On this side will be art studios for studying fine arts. So I've got these noCC paintings. Upstairs are the dormitories, so I've got all the different rooms here. And then through here we have kind of like a basic common area lounge that students can do some studying. Upstairs we have the larger common area that has a bunch of entertainment and activities that they can do. Underground, I thought it would be cool if they had like a drama department, so I'm going to put some seating in here, and this is like a small theatre stage where they can put on plays and shows and concerts. Realistically, if you have a university that's shaped like this, the basement is not going to be 4 stories deep and bigger than the building itself. Like I created, but it's The Sims, so we can do what we want. And so I created this little soccer stadium. Over here is basketball, so I created this sort of basketball stadium. That's basically it. I spent longer on this one because I've already built a ton of it, so I mean there's still a lot to go because of all those rooms and it's going to take a while, but this is also an option. Here's a fun icy Nordic Viking village using the debug stone from Eco Lifestyle, but I kind of thought they looked like icebergs, so I thought of creating this Viking city to showcase some of the custom arches that I made using the tool mod. And I started to create a Viking ship that you can see down here, although I need to hide these because that looks a bit weird. But anyway, it does need a lot of work, but I've already got the main outline of what I want, and it's not all going to look this grayish brown color. I started creating these kind of custom roofs right here in the brighter, warmer brown tone, so I'll probably do a lot more of that throughout. And then the rest of this, once I'm finished building the hut, the rest of this green area is going to be water with some icebergs in it. And these are all little huts, and then this is like the great hall where the Viking king lives. It's not going to be super regal looking. It's going to have that tribesman, huntsman style to it, ancient lodge look to it. So there's another option of what I can finish. See, I just have so many builds. I don't know which one to pick. I need your help. Now here we have a futuristic fantasy citadel where I wanted to create a sort of futuristic cathedral, and I was having fun playing with roofs as well, and all the objects from Journey to Batu, so ignore all this clutter in the front. I was just sorting through, figuring out which pieces I wanted to use for this build, and I created this circular shape, and I'll be using objects to smooth out those edges so that you have these like circular walkways. In the intersections and in the corners of the build, I'm going to create some like futuristic style buildings that suit this citadel style and color scheme. It's got that kind of patina green and copper and brass tones to it with the grey, and so the rest of the city will have this kind of a feel to it. And then these debug bridges from base game, I'm really excited to use these because I just love the colours and I love the way that they look, so I'm going to use them as the bridges. Okay, now this one stemmed from the Citadel build I just showed you, and at first I was going to have all of these futuristic cyberpunk style buildings surrounding the citadel, but I realized I didn't like the style clash. So ignore the citadel here, this will be deleted, but instead I thought of creating an entirely different cyberpunk city with all of these buildings as toppers. So I'll do 4 floors and then these will be seated on the top. And so here I've already started a building, as you can see, and your Sims will be able to use them. And the great thing is that in live mode, once you get close, these disappear. But what I like about them is at nighttime, it's like your own little nightlife city. And I was thinking of taking some of the spacecrafts from Journey to Batuu, the debug ones, and size them down and have them flying through the air like it's this futuristic urban city. So that's a fun option that I can do as well. Now here's a tribal fortress. I was challenging myself to build with only base game objects. So it has all these huts that are on these like crooked stilt legs. I wanted it to look a bit like higgledy-piggledy, like it's old and tribal. And there's going to be a swampy area at the bottom, and then this square shape is going to be smoothed out by using rocks to surround it. And at the moment, because there were no wooden posts in base game that I could find that suited this look, I was using these electrical posts, so I'll hide the metal pieces on it and try and make it look as tribal and organic as possible. And these are custom roofs that I created with my tool mod tutorial, which I need to update because a lot has changed with the tool mod. Anyway, so this is also an option. This one is a post-apocalyptic underground bunker. It has a above ground surveillance area, so these are like old crates that have been converted into surveillance. And then here's how they get their water. I was thinking like people who aren't allowed to come into the underground city, like they have to be quarantined first, or maybe it's overcrowded underground. Some people have to resort to just sleeping outside until they can find room underground for them. This is an old mining shaft that's been converted, so we go down into the basement, and here's where the city is now. It is a bit intense, there's a lot going on. I haven't finished decorating it, but if you're wondering what these weird things are here, they're actually rocks that I rotated upside down because I didn't like that the ceiling was just white. I wanted to give the illusion that it's a cave, so there's some rocks. And ignore this, I've just got junk everywhere because I want to use some of these items, I just don't know which ones I want to use. But there's already like this market area, like resources that people have found above ground, they bring down and try and trade with other people. And then there's this kind of kombucha area where they brew their own drink. Further down, these areas are all going to be like, this is the hospital area I need to sort through. And then I set up this piping system that goes throughout the whole cave because that's where they get their water from. And then over here we have storage for what they scavenge. So here there's a special entrance, and then this is just like scraps that they found above ground that they're storing until they can find a use for it. And then this is kind of like a crack in the cave, but there's all these signs and like windows into the different makeshift houses. And then there's going to be some restaurants. There's going to be a club over here, so there'll be lots of activities for Sims to do. This is going to be like a hydroponic type area where they're going to be growing plants underground. Here's some sleeping chambers for some of the workers. Over here is like the secret underground lab where they're experimenting and finding ways to, I don't know whether it's like a virus that wiped everyone out above ground or whatever, but they're doing research and trying to figure all this stuff out. Flickering issues will be sorted. So it's mostly done. I say mostly, I've got clutter everywhere, but turning each of these things into a functional room is going to take time. So even though it looks like it's way more finished than the other builds, it might take just as long just to finish those details. Okay, so here's the Millenium Falcon, a massive size one. Now I have a tiny one that I made, and there's a speed build of that video on my channel that you can check out, but that's just decorative. This one you can actually live inside, so I haven't shaped the underneath yet. At the moment I've just worked on the very top, so this is technically the roof, but I'll be shaping objects above and beneath, and then you'll be able to live in the floor below, so you'll actually be able to live in it. And I'm going to shape the interior just like the Millenium Falcon from the movie. I have some diagrams I've been using to figure out and map out the layout. I started making this I think like a couple months before the pack came out, and way before we even knew that a Star Wars pack was going to be coming out. So now that I have those Journey to Batuu items, I can use some of them to help make this faster. I wasn't sure if I should finish it because Journey to Batuu has a debug Millenium Falcon, but you can't live inside it. So the benefit of this would be that your Sims can actually live inside it as a house. Okay, we're going to have to use our imagination a bit for this one. I mean, this area is already mostly decorated. I love the moving waterfalls on that one. And over here, it's a little different because it's a little market area. and at the moment it's just a bunch of random shells. And then in this area it's going to be like this cave that is filled with these tiny little houses, or maybe they're little shops or something inside the side of the cliff. And then around this back area is going to be a cliff with like a mini castle on top. It's a kind of a weird concept, but it just popped into my head one day. I thought I'd have a crack at it and give it a go. So it's a little unusual, but I think it's going to be fun. So it's kind of hard to see what it's going to look like just by this empty white shell, but hopefully you'll get a feel for it based on like this building that I did over here. So it's a mix between like fantasy medieval market, but also some like historic style builds. Now this is a nifty knitting village I created after the stuff pack came out. I modeled it after like an old English village with lots of different cottages, and I kind of wanted it to have a retirement feel, and I came up with this before the Sparked series challenge of creating a retirement build and sim and all that kind of thing came out. I would have entered this one, but I did use Toolmod a little bit for elevating certain things, so, and you're not allowed to use Toolmod for the Spark challenges, so I could have recreated it without Toolmod, but I just didn't want to. So it's mostly done, it's just filling in all the individual houses. I'm going to do an artist cottage over here, then over here we've got a gardener's cottage. I wanted to turn this into a sort of, it could be a hotel, but I made it more like a retirement home, like a really nice retirement home. And then these are the different rooms. I did make them look kind of like a hotel. And then this more historic looking cottage is like the community center building. It'll host community events like scouts. Over here we have fixer-upper type of store, whether it's furniture or shoes or anything. And then these ones are empty. I'm going to do like a little bookstore over here. And then over here we have a trendy little bar area, although because these buildings are so tiny I'm using ladders, so realistically it's a bit weird to have ladders in all the builds when it's a retirement village. So these are just some retirees that have some really good knees and hips. And then this is a little crafting store studio. This took me forever, but I wanted it to be like a craft store. Over here we have a candle making studio. Over here we have a coffee shop, and in the basement there's like live performances. This is actually going to be a little cottage. So I've already done the bedroom, and I just need to do the rest of the house. And that's my little nifty knitting village. Now this castle I made back before I had created my full dragon that I have up in the gallery, so ignore this unfinished dragon. I just put it there as a reference for where I could put it, and I was going to turn this castle into like a dragon's keep. I don't know that I'm going to keep this color scheme. I'm probably going to delete all this crazy stuff there, but the actual shape of the castle is based off of a famous castle in Germany. I can't remember the name of it. I did change it slightly. It's got these fun like side entrances, this like throne room great hall area. The shape of it's a bit weird, so I'll probably end up changing that. It's cool because it's got like all these cliffs and this little moat down at the bottom, so it needs a lot of work, but most of the shell is pretty much done. Alright, now here's one I actually only just started a couple days ago because I wanted to practice with roofing, because I've always found roofing a challenge, and I really love that Asian style palace roofing, and so I wanted to make a kind of a fantasy version of an Asian palace, and so I just got started on it. So there's really nothing more to it at the moment. My goal is to have, some ponds, some gazebos, maybe, some smaller buildings around here, and then we'll have like a fortress wall around the edge with more roofing there as well. So this one is an option. Here's a French chateau that I started building using only items from Journey to Batuu and base game. I wanted to try and turn these build shells that come from the world of Batuu into parts of a castle, so I'll be hiding anything that looks like it's electronic or futuristic, and I'll either turn this into a historic type of chateau, or I can do it like a modern version where it's been like converted into a hotel or something like that. And so we've got lots of towers up here. This is going to be like a grand hall area. At the moment it's got outdoor lighting, it will have indoor lighting, and I'm going to put some balconies in it. Down here we'll have like a little market area, and I'll put around some enclosed market stalls so they'll look like tiny little buildings. If this is something that you'd like to see me finish first, then comment below and vote for this one. Here's a jungle wedding temple I actually created for the Sparked challenge, the destination wedding one. I already put an entry for that one, but I was working on this one as well. I just didn't finish it in time, so I'll probably have to convert it into something else, or I could keep it as a wedding chapel. I gave it the shape of like a Catholic cathedral, but in an Aztec type of jungle style, so it's kind of a mashup of those two different styles, and it was a lot of fun to try and create, but it still needs a lot of work. I was going to turn these into mini like hotel type rooms for guests, but the main area I was going to have like a dance, like this area would be like dance and drinks for the after party, for the reception, and then this is kind of nosebleed seating for like overflow for extra guests of the wedding party or something like that. And then down here is where the actual wedding takes place. You go down the very tropical aisle towards the altar. The altar is pretty creepy, but I thought that was fun. But at night time it looks magical. like a magical tropical jungle. And then it's surrounded by waterfalls, but I forgot to put a sim on the lot so that I could show you in live mode, but that's okay. Here is also where their wedding reception is, and that's basically all I have done so far. Now this is just a handful of the many projects that I have not finished. Believe it or not, my library is full of builds like this, but I picked a handful of my favorite ones, and I'd like to get your feedback. What would you like to see me build first? What would you like to see me finish? Let me know in the comments below if you have a favorite or maybe more than one, and if there are any elements that you'd like to see me include in that build, then feel free to comment on that as well. I really appreciate all your help, and I want you to be involved in my building process just like everyone on Twitter is able to when I'm able to post notifications about what I'm doing, pictures and snapshots of what I'm doing. But here on YouTube, you guys have no clue what I'm working on, so I thought I'd give you an inside scoop into the crazy world of my library in The Sims 4, and I really appreciate all of your feedback. I always appreciate all your support. I'm truly honored that you guys even watch my videos, and I love you tons and tons.